Dinosaurs. It's undeniable that they are truly amazing, with their varied shapes and sizes sometimes making modern animals seem almost bland in comparison. But it's also undeniable that they were incredibly strange, and many of the most famous dinosaurs had characteristics that are nearly impossible to imagine. Take Spinosaurus, for example, a dinosaur that sported a massive sail on its back, taller than the average NBA player. Or consider Stegosaurus with its thagomizer and the plate-like structures running along its back. Clearly, dinosaurs could be quite peculiar, but it's precisely this peculiarity that has earned many of them their enduring fame. However, with over 700 valid species of dinosaurs and counting, keeping track of them all can be quite challenging. Naturally, this means you might not be familiar with some of the more obscure, yet equally fascinating, terrible lizards. And that's truly a shame because these lesser-known dinosaurs are often the strangest of the bunch. Take Linhenykus, for instance, a relatively obscure theropod that lived in China during the late Cretaceous. Overall, it might seem quite ordinary. Like some other theropods, it too had rather odd, almost comical-looking arms. But its situation was much more extreme than anything else we've seen. To date, it remains the only known dinosaur to possess a single second digit. Moreover, among all known alvarezsaurids, the family it belongs to, Linhenykus, holds the title for the most reduced digit. This claw, attached to a ridiculously tiny arm, essentially transformed Linhenykus into an animal with minuscule cones for forelimbs. This fact puts the rest of the theropod group to shame, a group that is well known for sometimes having small arms, but not nearly this small. So, at this point, you might feel a bit more sympathy for the T-Rex or Carnotaurus, who are usually the main subjects of arm-related jokes. The unique arms of Linhenykus have, understandably, sparked considerable debate regarding their purpose. Initially, one of the main ideas was that these arms had no real use and were merely vestigial. However, more recent research and cross-analysis with its closest relatives have revealed that these arms were likely its main tools. Like many others in its family, Linhenykus was an insectivore, a theory further supported by its dentition, which consisted of small, needle-like teeth. To capture these insects, it is believed that it used its arms as built-in diggers to claw through ant and termite nests, much like what we see in modern anteaters. And it seems this method worked well for Linhenykus, as its fossils span 4 million years, specifically from 75 to 71 million years ago. However, short arms weren't the only extreme dinosaurs would develop, or rather, had already developed. Because nearly 90 million years earlier, during the Middle Jurassic, there was a dinosaur roaming around with the opposite problem, freakishly long hands. This was Epidexipteryx. Now you might be familiar with the Dinosaurs, a family of theropods famous for their extremely long claws. But Epidexipteryx wasn't a therizinosaur or a dinosaur with long claws. Instead, it had elongated fingers, giving it an almost eerie resemblance to something else entirely. Unfortunately, this dinosaur wasn't just an old internet meme, but a maniraptoran, meaning it was more closely related to birds than to ornithomimids. And its size was also closer to what we see in birds than in other non-avian dinosaurs. Like Linhenykus, it was very small. In fact, Epidexipteryx is among the smallest known dinosaurs, with fully grown adults being no bigger than a very small pigeon, quite a far cry from the norm, considering that the average dinosaur was equivalent in weight to a small African elephant. Given its small size in relation to birds, you might think that its long fingers had something to do with wings. After all, when you think about it, animals like pterosaurs and birds would have had strange-looking arms if they hadn't turned into wings. However, while some of its relatives did have wings, specimens of Epidexipteryx actually suggest it didn't have wing feathers or a wing membrane, meaning these weird fingers were possibly fully exposed. But although it likely didn't have wings, it seems the fingers were involved in some sort of flight-related activity, or at least something that came just before it. Paleontologists currently believe that Epidexipteryx used its long fingers to grip vertical objects while climbing, leading to a highly arboreal lifestyle. This climbing adaptation would have allowed this Maniraptoran to securely anchor itself without much effort, enabling it to feast on a variety of tree-based organisms, such as small insects, worms, and larvae. In addition to climbing, these fingers might have been used to pry bark off trees, exposing whatever lay beneath. Furthermore, its arboreal lifestyle was aided by its rather odd teeth located only in the front portion of its jaw, and fairly straight and narrow, allowing Epidexipteryx to pick at its prey with pinpoint precision. But the weirdness didn't stop there. At the end of its body, it had a few long feathers, which were quite primitive, making their structure ribbon-like. Encountering this creature at night or unexpectedly would have been quite the shock, despite it not posing a significant threat. However, it probably wasn't as weird as the next dinosaur, Liaoningosaurus. To put it bluntly, there's a chance this dinosaur was a partially aquatic ankylosaur that hunted prey. That's a lot to unpack, so perhaps it's best to start at the beginning, with its discovery. Like Linhenykus and Epidexipteryx, this odd dinosaur was also found in China and is believed to have lived during the early Cretaceous. Since the holotype was first retrieved, over 20 specimens of this creature have been recovered, some of which have been found in pristine condition, allowing paleontologists to deduce that it was likely an ankylosaur, as it possessed dental and skeletal features only seen in other ankylosaurids. However, scientists were quick to realize that a few things about this new genus were far from ordinary, including the fact that a certain specimen had fish and lizard remains in its stomach. This discovery perplexed everyone and led to further research, revealing even more unusual findings, including fork-like denticles on the top of its teeth and rather sharp claws, which made its discoverer more confident that it was at least somewhat carnivorous. These paleontologists also made the bold claim that not only did it have a taste for blood, but that it also had a knack for an aquatic lifestyle. This hypothesis stemmed from what could have been a bony plate covering the underside of its body, offering protection from attacks while swimming. Additionally, the lack of fusion between its hips and spines was further proposed to be a result of an aquatic lifestyle, allowing for more flexible leg movements in the water. Of course, such claims have been met with considerable skepticism. The main counterargument suggests that the so-called underplate didn't exist, and that the lack of fusion wasn't an aquatic adaptation, but rather a byproduct of the specimens representing juveniles, as every skeleton was very small, being no more than 1.5 feet or half a meter long. Yet, those who still believe it might have been aquatic argue that the 1 foot or half-meter specimens were adults, while the even smaller specimens, shorter than a ruler, were the babies. Regardless of its preferred habitat, this dinosaur was still quite odd and holds the distinction of being the first member of the Ankylosauria group to possess a tail club, as well as being the oldest known member of the Ankylosaurid family. Hopefully, as more remains are unearthed, we can finally determine whether this little dinosaur was a swimmer or not. Another relatively unknown and equally strange dinosaur that has sparked nearly as much debate is Chilesaurus. This genus of herbivorous dinosaur lived during the late Jurassic period and inhabited what is now Chile, giving rise to its name. However, a more fitting name might have been Chimerosaurus, because while it wasn't a combination of mammals and reptiles like the mythical chimera, it was a mashup of dinosaurs. Specifically, research on its remains revealed that it had traits classically associated with theropods, sauropodomorphs, and ornithischians, a three-in-one combo, so to speak. Despite its seemingly mixed heritage, Chilesaurus superficially resembled a theropod the most, leading to its initial placement within the basal position of the theropod group, the Tetanurae. But its strange features couldn't be ignored, including sauropodomorph-like limbs and an ornithischian-like hip that was oddly similar to the hip of Stegosaurus. This mix of features caused quite the confusion during its initial discovery, with paleontologists first thinking they had discovered three separate dinosaurs. Additionally, because the hip was extremely similar to that of Stegosaurus, some recent cladograms have suggested that this dinosaur wasn't a theropod at all, but rather some strange kind of ornithischian. Regarding its similarities to sauropodomorphs, paleontologists currently believe that convergent evolution is the answer, as its limbs appear to have been its main defense. They were relatively strong for their size and equipped with a large, extendable claw that could have slashed at would-be predators or competitors. But the strangeness doesn't stop there, as its teeth were quite odd too, elongated, spatula-shaped, and pointing forward, which is interesting because this dentition is rarely seen in dinosaurs and suggests a highly herbivorous lifestyle. Beyond its odd blend of dinosaur traits, Chilesaurus was a smaller dinosaur for its time, measuring only 3 meters or 10 feet from head to tail and weighing around 200 pounds at its largest. This enigmatic creature has certainly puzzled many, but sometimes confusion can arise from simple appearances, as best exemplified by Yi-Chi. Interestingly enough, a relative of this theropod has already been mentioned, Epidexipteryx, and like its relative, it too had long hands. However, unlike Epidexipteryx, Yi-Chi's strange long hands seem to have supported a wing membrane. This, along with evidence of heavy feathering, might conjure up an image of an animal that looked a lot like a bird. Yet, Yi-Chi looked like no bird you've ever seen, and its wings were unlike anything we know of, bearing more similarity to the wings of a certain flying mammal, bats. Specifically, a highly modified wrist bone and a peculiar membrane structure both pointed to leathery, featherless wings, which, along with its overall appearance, made it look somewhat like a certain fictional creature, leading some to nickname Yi-Chi the dragon dinosaur. But despite having wings, Yi-Chi was no flyer, as it lacked attachment points for large enough muscles to support powered flight. Instead, its hard-to-miss wings were used to glide around, much like flying squirrels travel through the air. Like Epidexipteryx and other members of its family, Yi-Chi lived a life in the trees where it hunted insects among the vast forests of late Jurassic China, a place that seemingly housed a large number of strange dinosaurs. The uniqueness of its wings certainly contributed to its initial success in occupying such a specific niche, yet it likely also played a role in its swift downfall. Yi-Chi coexisted with many competitors, namely pterosaurs and basal birds, who were generally much better at getting around, leaving Yi-Chi in the dust, or rather, in the trees, so to speak. Along with its wings, another interesting aspect of Yi-Chi is that it's one of the few dinosaurs whose color we might know, thanks to an electron microscope revealing the presence of eumellanosomes, a type of melanosome that is brownish-black in nature. This color would have helped Yi-Chi camouflage among the trees, making it easier to hunt prey and stay out of danger. Camouflage is certainly useful, but no amount of it could have hidden what made this next dinosaur, Incisivosaurus, truly bizarre, and that was its teeth. On the outside, it was fairly normal, being your standard Oviraptorosaur, which lived, surprise, surprise, in China during the early Cretaceous. But its teeth were anything but normal, having been likened to those found in rodents, earning it the nickname rat-teeth dinosaur. And like rats, it was the front teeth in particular that were abnormal, flattened, and buck-like. Its odd dental structure puzzled paleontologists regarding its diet, a question further complicated by the ongoing debate surrounding Oviraptorosaur diets in general. Initially, it was concluded that Incisivosaurus had an omnivorous lifestyle. However, more detailed examinations of its teeth eventually revealed dental wear patterns that shed more light on the true nature of its diet. Showing that this rodent-like dinosaur was mainly herbivorous. But it gets even stranger. Analysis of its jaws showed that Incisivosaurus wielded these teeth with extraordinary power, possibly biting down with the same force as a dinosaur 33 times its body size. Considering that it weighed about 4.5 kilos or 10 pounds, this means it could have bitten with the same force as a dinosaur weighing 333 pounds or 150 kilos. It's hypothesized that the strange shape of its teeth and their remarkable power resulted from Incisivosaurus occupying a very peculiar niche, one that involved extremely tough vegetation. It's also possible that its immense biting power was occasionally used to scavenge meat. And with Incisivosaurus, we wrap up this list of strange and relatively obscure dinosaurs. But there's one more I wanted to mention, the Yutyrannus. Unlike the others featured, this theropod is somewhat known, though not exactly a household name, and it's still undeniably one of a kind, as it is the largest known dinosaur to have provided us with direct evidence of feathers. This discovery didn't come from just one, but from 3 separate specimens, all of which bore feather imprints on their feet, pelvis, tail, neck, and arms, indicating that these individuals were quite well covered. This widespread distribution has led paleontologists to believe that the feathers served as a means of regulating body temperature, a theory further supported by its environment. Yutyrannus lived in the Yixian Formation during the early Cretaceous. At that time, this area experienced a climate comparable to the temperate forests seen in western Canada, and was also prone to extreme seasonal changes, which likely brought significant snowfall. Due to this climate, some have speculated that its feathers were light in color. Within the large diversity of theropods, this feathered beast is thought to have belonged to the Proceratosauridae family. It was one of the largest members of its family, with the 3 recovered specimens indicating a maximum size of around 9 meters or 30 feet, and a weight of about 1.5 tons. For context, this size is comparable to that of the average Allosaurus, which would have allowed Yutyrannus to hunt a wide range of dinosaurs, including ceratopsians, oviraptorosaurs, and possibly even sauropods. The idea that it hunted big game like sauropods comes from the location of the recovered specimens, as all 3 known skeletons were found in the same location, suggesting that this carnivore may have hunted in packs, another unusual feature among theropods. And as an added tidbit, it lived in China too, so basically, if you want to see strange, wacky dinosaurs, Mesozoic China is the place to be.